Echoes in the archives. Archivist Zara Vell ran her fingers over the ancient data crystal, its surface cool against her skin despite the millennia it had spent buried in the forgotten section of the Helios Prime Historical Repository. The crystal flickered with faint blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat as her touch activated dormant circuits. "Finally," she whispered, her voice echoing through the cavernous archive chamber. 3 years of searching, of following fragmented references and half-corrupted coordinates, had led to this moment. The discovery of historical records deliberately erased from the Galactic Assembly's official memory. The holographic projector hummed to life as she placed the crystal in its receptacle. Light coalesced above the platform, forming images of a world she'd never seen. Blue oceans, green-brown landmasses, swirling white cloud patterns. Text appeared beside it in a language so ancient her translation matrix struggled to interpret the symbols. "Earth," Zara read aloud, testing the unfamiliar word. "Homeworld of humanity." The projection shifted, showing bipedal beings remarkably similar to her own species, but lacking the distinctive cranial ridges that marked her people as Ardenian. These humans moved with purpose through structures of glass and metal. Their civilization evidently advanced despite using technologies considered primitive by modern standards. More text appeared, this time clear enough to read without translation. "This warning is preserved for future civilizations. The species known as humanity must never be forgotten, though believed extinct following the purification campaigns. Our predictive models suggest a 78.3% probability that isolated human populations survived beyond assembly space. Should they ever return, the consequences for galactic stability would be severe." Zara paused the projection, her academic excitement giving way to confusion. Purification campaigns? She'd spent her career studying galactic history, yet had never encountered any reference to such events, nor to this supposedly dangerous species called humans. The crystal continued its projection, showing scenes of devastating conflict, primitive spacecraft engaging in battles of surprising ferocity and tactical complexity. The final image froze her blood, a blue world burning, its atmosphere alight with nuclear fire as massive ships bombarded the surface. A timestamp indicated this occurred nearly 7,000 years ago. The crystal's light faded as the projection completed, leaving Zara alone in the dimly lit archive with questions burning in her mind. She carefully removed the crystal, securing it in a preservation container along with the others she'd discovered over years of research. "Archivist Vell," a mechanical voice interrupted her thoughts. "Your request for audience with the High Council has been granted. You are expected in the Grand Chamber in 30 minutes. "Thank you, Assistant," she replied automatically, her mind still processing the implications of her discovery. If these records were accurate, the entire foundation of Galactic Assembly history was built on deliberate omission. The peaceful unification of species that every child learned about in basic education was, at best, incomplete, and at worst a fabrication designed to hide an attempted genocide. As she gathered her materials, Zara's gaze drifted to the observation window overlooking Helios Prime's gleaming capital. Spires of crystalline material stretched skyward, connected by transit tubes filled with beings from 100 different worlds. The center of civilization, the pinnacle of cooperative advancement among sentient species, all of it potentially built upon a lie. The Grand Chamber of the High Council curved in a perfect semicircle, its walls adorned with representations of every member species of the Galactic Assembly. 537 distinct civilizations, each with its own history, biology, and cultural contributions to the greater whole. But now Zara wondered, how many others had been erased from memory? "Archivist Zara Vell," announced the chamber's resonant acoustics, approaching the wisdom circle with petition for special consideration. Zara stepped forward, her formal academic robe suddenly feeling inadequate before the assembled power of the council. 12 representatives sat in elevated positions, each chosen from the most advanced civilizations in the assembly. Their combined authority governed thousands of worlds across multiple spiral arms of the galaxy. "Esteemed Council," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I come before you with evidence of a significant historical omission in our collective archives. My research has uncovered references to a species called humans, who appear to have been deliberately removed from official records following a conflict approximately 7 millennia ago. She activated her presentation matrix, projecting selected images from the crystal above the chamber's central platform. The council members watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to impatience. These data crystals contain warnings about this species, warnings that suggest they may have survived what the records call purification campaigns and could someday return to known space. A dismissive chuckle interrupted her presentation. Admiral Krex, the military representative on the council, leaned forward in his seat. His scaled skin caught the chamber's light, creating iridescent patterns that matched his formal uniform's decorations. "Archivist Vel," he said, his tone carrying the practiced condescension of authority, addressing perceived foolishness. "You've presented us with nothing but corrupted data and children's stories. Humans are mythological beings from pre-spaceflight folklore, not historical entities." "With respect, Admiral," Zara countered, advancing her presentation to show more detailed records. "These crystals contain specific technological data, star charts, and biological information too precise to be mythological." "Perhaps because they were created as entertainment," suggested another counselor. "Historical fiction was quite popular during the Third Expansion era." Admiral Krex's expression hardened. "The Council's time is valuable, Archivist. Your academic fascination with obscure data fragments hardly constitutes an emergency worthy of our attention." "There's more," Zara persisted, feeling her opportunity slipping away. "Over the past standard year, 17 outpost stations along the outer reach have gone silent. The pattern of disappearances follows coordinates mentioned in these warnings about human territory." This caught their attention. Counselor Thalen, representing the reclusive Lissari, spoke for the first time. Unlike Krex's dismissal, his tone carried genuine inquiry. "You believe these disappearances are connected to your humans?" "I believe the possibility warrants investigation," Zara replied carefully, especially given the specificity of the warnings. Admiral Krex stood, his impressive height dominating the chamber. "The outpost situations are military matters already under investigation. We don't need archivists inventing prehistoric bogeymen to explain communications failures in distant sectors." His gaze swept the chamber, gathering support with practiced political efficiency. "I move to dismiss this presentation as speculative and unsubstantiated. Archivist Vel should be reminded that the historical repository exists to preserve confirmed facts, not to resurrect discredited myths." The vote was swift and decisive. Only Counselor Thalen and one other abstained. The rest sided with Krex. Zara stood, motionless as her research was officially deemed without merit and her access to council resources for further investigation denied. "The council thanks Archivist Vel for her enthusiasm," Krex concluded with barely concealed mockery. "Perhaps your talents might be better applied to more productive areas of historical study." As she gathered her materials, Zara noticed Counselor Thalen watching her with an unreadable expression. The Lissari were among the most enigmatic species in the assembly, their purple-hued skin and luminescent eyes giving little away about their thoughts. Dismissed and humiliated, she left the chamber with her academic reputation in tatters. "They fear what they cannot explain." Zara turned sharply at the voice, finding Counselor Thalen standing in the shadowed entrance to the archive. Hours had passed since the council meeting, the capital's triple suns now setting beyond the crystal spires, casting long shadows through the repository's ancient halls. "Counselor," she acknowledged, hastily standing from her workstation. "I didn't expect any council members to follow up on my presentation." "Not officially," he replied, moving into the light. Up close, the subtle patterns in his purple skin were more visible, swirling designs that seemed to shift with his movements. "But your findings resonate with certain cultural memories my people preserve." Zara's professional interest immediately overcame her embarrassment. "The Lissari have records of humans?" "Not records," Thalen corrected, approaching her workstation with careful steps. "Stories passed through generations. Tales of a species who fought with unexpected strategies, who valued individual action over collective efficiency." His luminescent eyes studied the data crystals arranged on her desk. "May I?" When she nodded, he lifted one crystal, holding it to the light with evident familiarity. These storage methods were considered obsolete even before the formation of the modern assembly. You recognize the technology? Zara asked, watching his long fingers manipulate the crystal with practiced ease. The Laisari remember many things other species choose to forget, he said enigmatically. He returned the crystal to her desk, his gaze meeting hers directly. Admiral Krex dismissed your concerns because they threaten the Assembly's foundational narrative of peaceful unification. You believe the records are genuine? She realized. Studying his expression, I believe, he said carefully, that 17 missing outposts deserve better explanation than communications failure. And I believe that patterns in ancient warnings should not be dismissed merely because they're inconvenient. A tension hung in the air between them, not unpleasant, but charged with significance. Zara had spent her life among artifacts and records. Direct connection with others, especially someone of Thalen's status, felt unfamiliar yet strangely compelling. What do you suggest? She finally asked. The Council has restricted my research. The Council restricted your official resources, he corrected with a subtle smile. They said nothing about private assistance. Before she could respond, an alert chimed from every communication device in the archive simultaneously. The sound repeated across the capital, an emergency broadcast overriding normal protocols. Zara activated her terminal, finding all channels displaying the same message. Attention. Unexplained signal detected across all frequencies. Origin, unknown nature, pattern repeating. Below the text, a simple sequence displayed. Silent Approach Commander Elias Reed stood on the observation deck of the TRV Prometheus, gazing at the gleaming world of Helios Prime through specialized viewing filters. The massive Terran reclamation vessel hung in the shadow of the system's largest moon, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to assembly detection technology. Beautiful, isn't it? He remarked to his second-in-command. Hard to believe they built all that on the bones of our history. Commander Maya Chen moved to stand beside him, her dark eyes reflecting the distant planet's glow. 7,000 years is enough time to rewrite any narrative, sir. Even one as significant as attempted genocide. Reed nodded, absently running his hand along the railing, a habit from his days as a junior officer. At 43, he represented the youngest generation of command-level personnel in the Terran fleet, yet carried the weight of humanity's legacy with the steady calm that had become his trademark. Status report on the preliminary operations? He asked, turning away from the view. All Outer Rim assembly outposts have been successfully neutralized, Chen reported. No casualties as ordered. 17 installations, all personnel in cryostasis and memory sealed as per Protocol 7. Recovery teams have extracted the historical archives from each location. And the signal? Broadcasting across all frequencies as planned. Our analysts confirm the assembly has detected it. A slight smile touched Chen's lips. The pattern is causing quite the commotion in their communications networks. Reed allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Generations of planning, of patient waiting and building in the darkness beyond known space, had culminated in this operation. Humanity's return would not be a crude invasion, but a precisely orchestrated revelation, the methodical dismantling of lies told about their kind for millennia. The next phase depends on our intelligence being correct, he noted, moving toward the tactical display dominating the center of the deck. We need those central archives. The holographic projection showed detailed schematics of Helios Prime's historical repository, one of the largest collections of galactic knowledge ever assembled. Within its protected vaults lay the true records of humanity's near extinction, preserved by those who had ordered it as a warning to future generations. Our intelligence is solid, Chen assured him, and we have an unexpected advantage. An archivist named Zara Vel has independently discovered fragments of human history. She presented her findings to the Assembly High Council today. Reed raised an eyebrow. How was it received? Poorly. She was dismissed and ridiculed. However, Chen's expression brightened. Counselor Thalen of the Laisari showed interest. He's made contact with her privately. The Laisari, Reed murmured, genuine warmth entering his voice. So they kept their promise after all these centuries. The old alliances run deep, Chen agreed. Our intelligence suggests the Laisari have maintained secret knowledge of human survival, passed through their highest lineages. Reed studied the data on Zara Vel, her academic record, publications, psychological profile. She could be useful. The repository's security systems would respond to her access codes without triggering alerts. Shall I dispatch a contact team? Reed considered the options carefully. Standard procedure would call for covert extraction of both the archivist and the Lissari counselor. But something about the situation suggested a different approach might be more effective. Not yet, he decided. Let's monitor their movements for the next 12 hours. If they continue investigating despite the council's dismissal, they may prove more valuable as willing allies than as extracted assets. Chen nodded, making notes on her command tablet. And the main fleet? Maintain position in the Kuiper Belt. No movement until we secure the archives. Reed's expression hardened slightly. 7,000 years of patience. We can wait a few more days to do this, right? As Chen departed to relay his orders, Reed turned back to the observation window. Somewhere on that shining world below, an archivist was discovering truths long buried. Truths that would soon shake the foundations of the galaxy's most powerful civilization. Not long now, he whispered to himself. Not long at all. They've locked us out of the primary archives, Zara said in disbelief, staring at the access terminal that now displayed a bright red denial message. This is unprecedented. Even during system maintenance, archivists maintain priority access. Thalen stood beside her in the now empty repository, the late hour having sent other scholars home hours ago. Only emergency lighting illuminated the vast space, casting long shadows among the towering shelves of knowledge. Admiral Krex moves quickly, he observed. He's likely classified all materials related to your presentation as matters of security. But why? Zara turned to face him, frustration evident in her voice. Even if he believes my research is misguided, this level of restriction is extreme. What could possibly justify fear? Thalen interrupted gently. Not of your research itself, but of what it might represent. The signal has them frightened, though they'd never admit it. The mysterious transmission continued to repeat across all communications channels, defying the Assembly's best efforts to locate its source or block its broadcast. The simple pattern had thrown the capital into barely concealed panic. Emergency meetings convened at every level of government. We need to access my research materials, Zara decided, moving toward a secondary terminal. Everything I've collected over the past 3 years is stored in my personal archive. If they haven't locked that down yet, the terminal flashed green, accepting her credentials. Good, at least something still works. As she began transferring data to portable storage devices, Thalen moved closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Zara, there's something I must tell you. Something about my people's connection to these events. The sudden intimacy of his tone, the first time he'd used her name without title, caught her attention. She turned to find him standing closer than protocol would normally permit, his luminescent eyes intense in the dim light. The Lissari weren't always part of the Assembly, he began. Before we joined nearly 5 centuries ago, we existed on the fringes of known space. Our worlds bordered regions that official maps marked simply as unexplored. The direction where the outposts have been disappearing, Zara realized. Yes. Thalen's voice carried a weight of history. My ancestors encountered humans long after their supposed extinction. Encountered and befriended them. The revelation stunned her into momentary silence. You've known? She finally managed. All this time the Lissari have known humans survived? Not all Lissari, he clarified. Only certain lineages, those sworn to maintain the secret. My family has carried this knowledge for 17 generations. Zara's mind raced with implications. Then the council position. Your presence during my presentation was not coincidence, he acknowledged. When your research request mentioned potential evidence of human survival, it triggered alerts within our diplomatic systems. I arranged to be present specifically to evaluate your findings. The personal archive terminal chimed, indicating the data transfer was complete. Zara removed the storage device, tucking it securely into her robes while processing Thalen's confession. Why tell me this now? She asked. You're violating what must be one of your people's most protected secrets. Thalen's expression softened, the patterns on his purple skin shifting to configurations Zara couldn't interpret. Because events are accelerating beyond control, the signal means they're already here within this system watching, and when they reveal themselves fully, the Assembly will need people who understand the truth. Before she could respond, the repository's emergency lighting suddenly shifted to red. A security alert sounded, followed by a mechanized announcement. Attention. By order of Assembly Security, Archivist Zara Vell and Counselor Thalen are to be detained for questioning regarding classified materials and potential violations of information protocols. They're moving faster than I anticipated, Thalen said, glancing toward the main entrance where security forces would soon appear. We need to leave now. Leave? But there's nowhere. Zara began, only to stop as Thalen took her hand. The unexpected contact sent a strange warmth through her arm, his skin slightly cooler than hers, but pleasantly so. The gesture seemed both protective and oddly personal given their brief acquaintance. Trust me, he said simply. There are passages beneath the repository older than the assembly itself. As security alerts continued to sound, Thalen led her toward a section of archive shelving that appeared identical to all others. With practiced movements, he manipulated a seemingly decorative pattern on the floor, causing a panel to slide silently open, revealing a dimly lit passage. How did you know this was here? Zara asked as they descended into the hidden corridor, the panel closing behind them. The Lycery helped design many of the capital's oldest structures, Thalen explained, still holding her hand as he guided her through the darkness. We ensured certain contingencies were incorporated. The passage sloped downward, taking them deep beneath the repository. The walls transitioned from modern materials to something far older, stone carved with symbols Zara recognized from her research into pre-assembly civilizations. These markings, she whispered, trailing her free hand along the ancient carvings. Their progenitor script. Yes, Thalen confirmed. This tunnel system predates the assembly by millennia. The progenitors built it as an emergency evacuation route from what was once their central research facility, the same location where the repository now stands. As they continued through the winding passages, Zara's professional curiosity temporarily overwhelmed her concern about their situation. My specialty is assembly history, but I've studied progenitor archaeology. There's no record of such extensive structures beneath the capital. There are many things absent from official records, Thalen replied, a hint of sadness in his tone. The progenitors' connection to humanity, for instance. Their role in developing early human interstellar technology. Their eventual betrayal when human expansion threatened their dominance. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber illuminated by bioluminescent panels that activated at their presence. The space contained what appeared to be an ancient transit hub, with sealed doorways bearing directional markings in progenitor script. We'll be safe here temporarily, Thalen said, finally releasing her hand. Security forces won't know of these passages. Zara moved to examine the chamber's central control pedestal. This technology shouldn't still be functional after so many millennia. It's been maintained, Thalen admitted, by those who needed to ensure these routes remained viable. The implication hung between them. The Lizari, Zara concluded. You've been preparing for something. For their return. For balance to be restored, he corrected. The assembly is built on half-truths and deliberate omissions. The humans call what they're doing reclamation, not of territory, but of historical accuracy. The chamber's lighting suddenly pulsed, drawing their attention to one of the sealed doorways, which began to cycle open with a hiss of preserved atmosphere. We're not alone, Zara whispered, instinctively moving closer to Thalen. No, he agreed, but made no move to retreat. But I don't believe we're in danger. Through the opening doorway stepped two figures dressed in form-fitting attire unlike any assembly design. One was clearly female, with features startlingly similar to Zara's own species but lacking Ardenian cranial ridges. The other was male, taller and broader, with darker coloration. Counselor Thalen. The woman addressed him with a respectful nod. Your family's service is remembered. She then turned to Zara. Archivist Vell. Your research has attracted significant attention, both from the Assembly security forces and from us. You're human, Zara stated, the academic portion of her mind cataloging the physical differences between myth and reality. Commander Maya Chen, Terran Reclamation Fleet, the woman confirmed. This is Lieutenant Esparza. We've been monitoring your situation since your presentation to the Council. Why are you here? Zara asked, finding her voice despite the surreal nature of the encounter. After 7,000 years of absence, why return now? Chen's expression remained professional but not unkind. That's a complex question best answered by Commander Reed. He's requested to meet with you both, assuming you're willing. Zara glanced at Thalen, finding his luminescent eyes already watching her. The patterns on his skin had shifted again, now glowing slightly in the chamber's dim light. There was something in his expression, a question, perhaps, or encouragement. Meeting with you would make us traitors to the Assembly, she pointed out, returning her attention to Chen. The Assembly has already declared you both persons of interest in a security investigation, Chen countered. Admiral Kreck signed the detention order personally. Right now your options are limited, and if we agree to meet your commander, you'll be taken to our vessel, treated with full diplomatic protocol, and given access to the historical archives we've recovered, including materials dating back to humanity's original conflict with the progenitors. The academic in Zara couldn't help responding to that offer, access to unaltered historical records from 7 millennia ago, represented an unprecedented opportunity. We should go with them, Thalen said quietly. At minimum, we'll learn the truth. At best, we might help prevent unnecessary conflict. His counsel carried weight beyond his words. Something about his presence had become a touchstone for Zara in the chaos of recent events. His knowledge and calm providing stability when everything familiar had been upended. Very well, she decided. I'll meet with Commander Reed. But understand this. I'm seeking truth, not taking sides in whatever conflict you're initiating. Commander Chen nodded, seemingly satisfied. Fair enough, Archivist. The pursuit of truth is precisely why we've returned. As they followed the humans through the ancient passage, Zara found herself walking closer to Thalen than strictly necessary, drawing subtle comfort from his proximity. The universe had transformed around her in mere hours, from respected scholar to fugitive, from historical theorist to active participant in the return of a species long thought extinct. Whatever came next would rewrite not just her understanding of history, but the future of the galaxy itself.